Today on Growth Gatherings, we sit down with Muhammad Atif Hanif, CEO Bank Baraka Pakistan, a leader redefining Islamic banking through purpose, vision, and innovation. Welcome, Atif. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So, you've built an incredible career. What sparked your interest in finance and economics?
Well, during my college years, I would read articles on economics with a lot of interest.
Ah.
And I also had interest in other readings, including geography, history, but how economics is playing role in globally in the history of different nations. This always interests me, and that was 80s mainly during my metric and FSC time, and a lot was happening globally. So I would read about economics. But later, I ended up having a bachelor's degree in business administration from US, and after that, it was all business and
So you
economics.
were naturally inclined. And your career journey is also very inspiring. You did your matriculation, you studied from Peshawar,
Yes,
and then you went to the US, and
yes.
then you worked for capital markets and leading financial institutions in Pakistan. What was the inspiration or motivation for you? How were you making your career decisions?
Well, first of all, I must say that there's another factor. My father was a banker,
Acha.
so he was in UBL, and during his times in KP, they had a very good rotation policy at that time. So he was moving every 3 years. And so my school, I have never been in a school for more than 3 years.
Okay.
So my first school was in a beautiful valley in north of KP in Swat.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes, so it was a convent
Huh.
on top of a mountain near Swat River. So we would drive 20 minutes back then in early 70s to reach the school. And then I moved on to, my father moved to Peshawar, and from Peshawar to Mardan, and then I went to the Cadet College Kohart. So, and then after doing my bachelor's and FSC from Edwards College, I went to US for business administration. But since my father was a banker, and he was an inspiration. The way he carried his career and the respect that he would get in the society and the community, I think that was the foundation of how the idea of finance, pursuing a career in finance and studying banking or business administration.
So what I find you're very calm and very composed, even in very stressful moments. Again, I'm looking back these traits, which are great leadership skills, right? So has it always been like that, or calm, composed, and in a collected manner, sort of moving around, or did you acquire while working and moving through your career ladder?
Well, I must say that although the career ladder has been promising all along, but there have been positive changes that I've acquired
Hmm.
over the period.
Hmm.
And I have this habit of saying that plus one minus one.
And what's that?
And plus one minus one is something that I like to acquire one positive trait,
Oh.
like try to do that as a new year resolution. Uh, Try to acquire one positive trait that's plus one, and take out one negative, which I feel is a negative. And I've been advocating this, that anybody who follows this for continuously 10 to 15 years would be a completely different person in 10 to 15 years.
And I love the simplicity because, all of us, we have a reaction to feedback, especially if it's a negative feedback. And this plus one, minus one is sort of a positive way to look at it. And do you look for feedback actively, or you just reflect on your own things that you're doing well and things you're not, and you say, okay, this is plus one,
Well,
minus one?
it's mainly my own reflection.
Hmm.
Because as you grow and you mature
Ah.
as a professional, as a human, you do realize that what things you need to improve and what things you need to acquire. I've been saying this, that if somebody who has known you for all your life, and if they compare you what you are today with 20 years ago, 25 years ago, may not even recognize you,
Hmm.
uh, provided you keep on following this methodology of acquiring good habits, good traits, good skills.
You grew up in KPK, and it's a great tourist destination. People from all over the world, they come and visit there. What are your favorite tourist places in Pakistan?
This is probably a very tough question
Tough question.
because Faria, Pakistan, I believe, is so blessed. It has so much natural beauty and so much diversity.
Hmm.
I always say that if somebody wants to customize a country
Hmm.
in terms of the kind of beautiful landscape, the geography,
Hmm.
the diversity of
Hmm.
geography, I think a complete masterpiece would be what Pakistan is today.
That's true. Beaches, historical places, mountains, so many things.
Yeah, it's so coming to your question, I think since I'm fond of mountaineering and trekking and all that, so I think Swat is
Hmm.
definitely one of the. I've seen all of North is definitely the most beautiful place in Pakistan,
Hmm.
and the kind of variety it has,
Hmm.
the lakes it has, the waterfalls it
Hmm.
has, the river, the jungle, the trekking.
Hmm.
And one of my favorite places is a place beyond Kalam called Mahudand.
Acha.
Mahudand in Pashto means Mahu is fish and Dand is a pond.
Hmm.
So it is actually not a lake, but the water slows down so much at that height that it looks like a lake. So Mahudan is a beautiful place, and then you can walk along the river, pass Mahudan, and every 10-15 minutes is a completely different landscape, completely different set of
Hmm.
attractions. The second place, I will say in the northern Pakistan is an amazing place. The whole of North Pakistan is amazing,
Hmm.
but Fairy Meadows
Oh.
is really a fairy paradise. That's actually the starting point
Acha.
where you can start trekking to the base of the Naga Parbat.
Slightly switching gears, and we are moving to economy. Pakistan's economy, because you've spent majority of your 26 years, right, in finance, banking. How do you see Pakistan's economy right now, and particularly from an investment perspective?
Pakistan economy is definitely uh, underperformed,
Hmm.
understated,
Hmm.
and a word that we are all used to of saying is that it has enormous potential.
Hmm.
Uh, so the more you understand Pakistan, the more you realize the potential sectors which have so much upside,
Hmm.
the more optimistic you get.
Hmm.
For the simple reason that there is so much potential.
Hmm.
But yes, we have lagged behind.
Hmm.
We have lagged behind our neighboring countries.
Hmm.
We have lagged behind our exporting
Hmm.
competitors like Vietnam, like India,
Hmm.
like Bangladesh.
Hmm.
But again, there is just enormous potential. For example, we talk about textile.
Hmm.
We talk textile is our main export,
Hmm.
um, and we talk about IT.
Hmm.
IT has we have just started scratching the potential
Yeah.
of IT, and we have already $4 billion of exports.
Really?
Yes. Likewise, textile. I'm a firm believer that uh, Pakistan should continue to look out for diversification
Hmm.
of its opportunities.
Hmm.
And one opportunity that I've been talking about for quite some time now, for almost I think 2 years, is the alignment of Pakistan with the global halal economy.
Hmm.
And the global halal economy is so understated, is so underrated. The fact is that the quantum of the global halal economy now is $2 trillion per year. It comprises of, we normally think halal means only meat, but
Hmm.
no, Halal protein, yes, is $1 trillion of global consumption, which includes the consumption of the Muslim countries and the Muslims living in the non-Muslim countries like Europe and America and all those places. But the leading exporter is Brazil, which is exporting $10 billion of halal protein. Second is Australia. Third is Indonesia. Fourth is India. India is exporting approximately $4 billion of halal meat. Pakistan is only exporting half a billion dollars. Second is halal cosmetics and halal pharmaceutical. It is $250 billion of international trade. Pakistan's contribution is zero. Third is halal tourism, where there are hotels, resorts, and restaurants certified as halal. Pakistan is everything is halal, but there's not a single halal hotel or resort or restaurant in Pakistan certified. In Turkey, about more than 50% of the hotels are halal, despite being a Muslim country. Even places like Bangkok, more than 50% of the five-star hotels are halal certified. But the most important is for Pakistan, where the potential lies, is the halal fashion. Halal fashion is now $400 billion of global trade. Pakistan is a textile champion, but Pakistan's contribution in halal fashion is almost zero. And that is a low-hanging fruit. And the halal fashion comprises of classical halal products like abaya, ihram,
Scarves,
namaz ki
etc.
topi,
Yes.
scarf. Some people categorize janimaz and tasbih and all those things as well. But then there's a modern halal fashion. If you Google modest halal fashion, you will find, the progressive and the like more stylish women segments in the Muslim countries and non-Muslim countries who want to be Sharia compliant, but at the same time they want to maintain the styles. That is a new product range in which Turkey is excelling. And Pakistan total textile exports are $20 billion. I've been saying that if Pakistan focuses on 5% market share of the halal fashion of what that number is today, $400 billion, 5% is $20 billion. So if we target 5% in 5 years, that will mean doubling of the textile sector in 5 years. Likewise, we talk about mining. This Rico Dig alone is expected to have $3 billion plus exports. Pakistan total exports are $30 billion. That means addition of 10% from one mine. So Pakistan's economic potential is huge, and we just need to focus on the right areas. The cost of doing business, which everyone realizes is higher than our exporting competitors, including utilities and other inputs, including the taxes are on the higher side as well. We need to have very clear direction in what 3 or 4 areas we should focus and what should be the benchmarks with the timelines to achieve and what needs to be corrected.
What is the role Islamic banking currently playing in Pakistan's economy?
The role Islamic banking is playing is very important. This unbanked population is more than 100 million and it continues to swell. So all the surveys that have been done to analyze the reasons for people shying away from banking, the most important reason has been the fear of riba. So people are so scared of doing becoming part of the riba system that they don't even distinguish between the Islamic bank or the conventional bank. So they just stay away from the banking period. So I think Islamic banking and the awareness of Islamic banking is very important as well. So we at Baraka are taking a lot of steps in this direction apart from our BAU, and that is the awareness for the society, for the stakeholders. And one of the initiatives that we have taken is the ulama conferences, in which we invite the masajid khatib of the mosque surrounding a branch. And there's a SOP for that about 20% are the ulama and the masajid khatib, 80% are the existing and the potential customers. And to 100 people, our Sharia scholars go and speak about Islamic banking. And the audience includes these khatib who are then asked, welcome to ask questions. So when they ask questions, their followers are listening,
Mm.
that they're taking so much interest in understanding Islamic banking. And towards the end of the session, the most senior khatib or alim is asked to come to the stage and share his views.
Mm.
So 99.9% they say that we have realized today that there is a proper Sharia compliant banking
Mm.
as well, which is acceptable according to Islamic values.
Mm.
So that is a game changer, for that particular
For that
territory
population.
and
Yes.
population. Yeah. So Islamic banking has huge potential,
Mm.
and it is the need of Pakistan, because if we want our economy to really grow, to
Mm.
really get documented,
Mm.
these 70 to 80% people who are unbanked,
Mm.
they need to come into banking.
Yes.
And that actually shows the potential of the banking industry,
Yes.
because it means that all the banks can multiply by 4 to 5 times if
Yes.
the population starts, getting banked.
Yes.
So Islamic banking is the answer. And like I mentioned, the halal potential.
Yes.
So Islamic banking should not be, I think, should be taken in isolation,
Huh.
but it should be taken as a whole ecosystem of halal and Islamic banking.
Yes.
And that is actually the solution for Pakistan's economic uplift
Mm.
and the banking progression
Yeah.
and development as well.
And you're serving the consumer
And
who
you're
actually
serving the
need these
consumer. Yeah,
products.
yeah.
Amazing. You're on a journey to turn around your bank. How,
Inshallah.
inshallah, and you're doing an amazing job. How easy that journey has been for you? Is it a lonely journey? Is it an exciting journey? What are you learning about yourself?
It is an exciting journey,
Mm.
because it just happens to be that in my last 3, 4 assignments, I've been given the task to uh, where a portfolio has been given,
Mm.
which I will say in a very fundamental and basic level, which had a lot of potential of upside.
Mm.
So when I joined Baraka, I realized that it is part of a very good global Islamic
Mm.
banking
Mm.
group, which is Baraka Banking Group, with headquarters in Bahrain, in 13 countries, and is
Mm.
doing very well in all the other 12
Mm.
countries except Pakistan.
Mm.
In order to have a transformation, a meaningful
Mm.
transformation, and to counter the challenges and to find new and out of box opportunities, you have to be very innovative.
Mm.
So innovation is the key.
Mm.
In order to be one of the best banks in the country,
Yeah.
you don't have to be the biggest. You just
Correct.
you just have to achieve 3 things. You should become a sought after employer for your
Mm.
employees. You should be considered a sought after bank
Mm.
by your customers, and your shareholders should be happy.
Mm.
So these 3 things can turn around any bank. The first gap that I saw was in the HR reform
Mm.
and related matters.
Mm.
So first month of my joining, we proposed to our NRC and board
Mm.
and ABG a set of HR reforms,
Mm.
which I always feel that my board and the group has been extremely supportive.
Mm.
All these things started with HR reforms, and then we had some opportunities in the group which
Mm.
were never touched.
Mm.
So we realized that certain initiatives
Mm.
can be taken, which will not only be a game changer for the bank and also be very useful for the whole group, but in fact they will be completely new ideas and change the way banks have been approaching their customers in the Pakistan's banking industry.
Mm.
So we came up with our inter-franchise collaboration
Mm.
um, with a trade finance portal
Mm.
to connect the customers across various jurisdictions,
Mm.
to facilitate them to find new buyers
Mm.
and new markets for their products. And in the process, obviously, we got engaged with them,
Yeah.
and our business expanded,
Mm.
substantially expanded. And actually, a bank of our size, which was it 3 years ago, it was not easy to acquire large size
Mm.
top-rated corporates in a short period. So our engagement through the webinars that we did among the various subsidiaries, where we connected, our own selected customers or potential customers rather, with the customers across jurisdictions like South Africa, Turkey, Egypt, Bahrain. Um, they gave us so much leverage in our business expansion that our portfolio grew by 52%, advances portfolio in 2024. We met our ADR, which was required to be 50% in last year, and with a 52% growth in five months actually, when this ADR regulation came in June, and by December 28th, we were 52%. So transformation has been multi-dimensional, inside out. And Alhamdulillah, so the strategy has been three-pronged. Number one was to build the brand, the external strategy, to build the brand, and through brand, capitalize on increasing or enhancing the P&L and the balance sheet of the bank. So, but it started with the brand building. So we have a history, mashallah, of now 3 years of very strong initiatives which all contributed towards the brand building.
A tip if somebody watching this podcast and they don't know whether they're good in innovation or creativity or they want to improve on that, any tip that you can give them? How can someone improve their creativity and innovation as a skill?
I would say ability to see what others are not seeing.
Hmm.
For innovation, you'll have to, I'll say, first of all, accept that there are things around you that nobody is looking at. And they make sense. So, first you should look at the gaps, the opportunities, and then rationalize them in terms of does it make sense? But the more you see, when you start looking at it from that angle, you will come across so many opportunities in a country like Pakistan. I'll give another example. In Pakistan, most of the corporates, after 3 generations, start facing a challenge of succession. And and it's very common to see that after 3 to 4 generations, the most of the corporate starts, weakening, and their companies starts losing out on the business strengths they had, the market share they had, and the management, and they get into the legal and family problems. So our group, I met a gentleman in Medina in one of the conferences who is associated with our group, which is a Dalla group of Saudi Arabia. And that gentleman is a Saudi, but he's an international scholar on family business. So I requested him that we would like to arrange a lecture on family business for our top corporates in Karachi. So we managed that was about 2 years ago. And about 35 leading corporate houses, the sponsors with their children, attended that lecture. That encouraged us so much that last year, actually this year, we held a similar lecture on family business by the same gentleman. His name is Sheikh Yusuf Khaladi in Lahore. And this time there were 170 companies, the sponsors with their children, who attended that lecture. So this is an opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah,
Because
understanding the need and then capitalizing and
capitalizing
serving them.
and serving them. This is something I learned while experimenting on this, and this initiative turned out to be another forte of our transformation.
Okay, our last segment, rapid fire round. One question: if you were not a banker, you would be?
A writer,
Acha.
mostly on development economics, socio-economic development.
Huh. And you have written, and you've also written on Chinese language?
Yeah.
So, what was that about?
All new ideas come from some basic experience. Once I was at some place where somebody was saying that I'm learning German language, and somebody else said that I had interest in Japanese. So I said, this is all good. But then I said, our next door neighbor is China. they are the most rising economic and social and political power in the country, in the world, and we have extremely good relations with them. We talk about traveling to all over, other continents, and for education, for tourism, for all those things, and languages. Germany, it's not easy to get visa for masses, for places like Germany or Portugal or Japan, but people are learning those languages. Why not Chinese? And there's so much advantage for Pakistani youth to learn Chinese, and there's so much advantage to the Pakistan's economy if we have more Chinese-speaking youth who is educated.
Any article you read, or because you like reading and writing, but something that you read that stayed with you and you said, yeah, this is a great story?
Well, I thought about, I can think of so many books and so many articles that I've read. I can mention one that, in our childhood, we used to read Reader Digest.
Yes.
And when the media was not the kind of media which is today, everyone had their own favorites. So I used to read Reader Digest very regularly. And there was a series in Reader Digest, which was called I Am Joe's Body.
Okay.
So Joe was an imaginary person, and in every article, one organ of Joe's body would explain itself and try to argue and persuade the readers that I am the most important part of Joe's body.
Okay.
So heart would say, for so many reasons, I'm the most important. If I just miss one beat, he's gone. The mind would say, if everything else is working, if I stop, he'll not be sane. So all these were very interesting. And it was such a popular series
And
that,
it's a great way to think about your body parts and
yeah,
the role they play.
yeah.
Huh.
And it was such a popular series that later on they compiled and made a book of all these articles. So the most interesting was when I spoke about itself, and I tried to persuade that I am the most important. So in many ways, there was argument by the I that I am the most important. And then the I went on to explaining that my retina, which is the main part of the eye through which you see, it is controlled by the muscles. So there are muscles that expand and contract, and that is how you see. So every time Joe is looking at an object beyond 20 feet, I don't have to use my muscles.
Okay.
So every time an object is being seen which is within 20 feet, the muscles have to stretch to open the retina. And then it said Joe's bedroom is less than 20 feet. Joe's classroom is less than 20 feet. If Joe is working, his office is less than 20 feet. Even when Joe is driving, he is looking at the rear view mirror, he is looking at the radio, he is looking at the steering. So all of a sudden he's looking at the road, and then he's looking at some, so my muscles are either stretching and
And what do you think
relaxing.
of this?
Yeah. So back then there was no mobile.
There was no mobile.
There was not even mobile. And the worst part is that once or twice a year, when he goes on holidays, he looks at the landscape and the countryside and the mountains, and he says, I'm so relaxed.
Yes.
And this is also beautiful. But he doesn't even realize that he is relaxed because I am relaxed and my muscles are not being used. So even if he is looking at an ugly, barren, black mountain, he will still be relaxed. So, this just appealed to me so much that we when you talk about health and look after our health and all those things, we talk about exercises, we talk about diet, or so many things. We don't realize that being in outdoor is a relaxation in itself. When your eyes are looking at something beyond 20 feet, your eyes are relaxed. So I encourage everyone to spend some time, include my family, my children, my elders, to to sit outside in the evening. If you are going to have a cup of tea, just try to sit outside. So this is a small is something I recalled when you asked me about reading.
No, I think it's a great article, and especially these days because we use mobile a lot. We use email, the app. So I think our eyes are always, we are very intense actually all the time.
Yes.
So this is a great way. So another, I think I like. First one was +1 -1, and now this one's a great story. And we learned a lot from you, banking, exports, and also your focus on reading, but also some interesting stories. Thank you for joining Growth Gathering.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Fariha.